Last series before we go, Clippers and Mavs. I feel like this is the third time we've seen this. Producer John, who is a big Mavericks fan, he's probably clapping right now because he can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. Kawhi is dealing with the inflammation in his right knee. They held him out, even though he reached the threshold for the All-NBA, and I did put him on my All-NBA ballot. He was, I don't know if he was second or third team, I can't remember, but he was definitely there. He's on the USA team, so clearly it does not seem like whatever is bothering him now is going to be something that hinders him in the playoffs. Do you see the Clippers having had enough continuity without Kawhi over the past couple of weeks of the season compared to the surge that Dallas has been on post All-Star break?
It gets a little dicey for me with the Clippers, just because I anticipate Kawhi is going to be back. I don't know which version of Kawhi we get. Just from a health standpoint, we know he's going to be ready for the series. He's going to be amped to go. But I don't know like how healthy he's going to be. I don't know how often they're going to put him on Luka. I would imagine if a game is close, he's just getting that matchup, and Luka's going to try to hunt with switches anyway. But I think we're going to see that late in games. I don't know if they start with Kawhi on Luka, or if they just give that to a Terrence Mann or someone to kind of eat innings in a sense. Because I have the questions about Kawhi, and on top of that, as we saw last year in the postseason, even if he's there and ready to go, is he going to be good for 4 or 5, 6 or 7? We don't know. With that uncertainty, like, one, I feel better about the Mavs search, period. Like, they have better personnel. Luka's been incredible. Kyrie has been incredible post All-Star break. More importantly for me, Luka and Kyrie being used in tandem, that chemistry is continuing to grow. You've seen Luka screen more for Kyrie. You've seen Kyrie screen more for Luka. You've seen more off-ball stuff for Luka. It's hard not to trust the Mavs more than the Clippers right now, before getting into any of the narrative stuff.
Right, yeah.
Because everyone has jokes for Harden and for Paul George, and that's a whole nother tangent. But even before getting into any of that stuff, if you believe in that, I think the Mavericks have just flat out been playing better basketball. And I think for what they want to accomplish defensively, adding that size of PJ Washington, having Derrick Jones Jr. out there, not necessarily the bulkiest dude, but a rangy defender that you trust, being able to flow into different small ball lineups. Maxi Kleber has looked very good defensively in the back half of the year. We will see if he hits the 3-pointers that will be afforded to him in the series. That could be a swing factor for you. But defensively, he's been there. So they have the lineup optionality on top of that. It's hard not to pick the Mavs in a series like this, especially with the uncertainty with how healthy Kawhi is going to be. That's kind of where I lean right now. Now, I do have like some specific series questions about how the Clippers are going to match up, what the Mavericks are going to do in certain situations, stuff like that. But, you know, just a quick summary, like I feel better about the Mavs heading into this one.
I feel like I have more answers for Dallas than I do for the Clippers right now. I don't know if, like, not necessarily the James Harden thing, like postseason thing, but the James Harden post All-Star break thing, that he seems to be a little more indecisive and not like, oh, he's going to tank. He just doesn't, it's in a way doesn't feel like he understands or knows his way. And that's where Russell Westbrook, who is the ultimate feast or famine player, even at this stage of his career, can sort of come in and sort of change the pace and everything. But that's another player that Dallas has to account for defensively. You know what I mean? And Luka, I won't say there won't be a place for him to hide, but this is where I like PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. on this roster, because you don't have to worry about Luka being drained by all this. Like when I talked to Jason Kidd, maybe like a month or two ago, they came to Detroit. He was giddy about those dudes because he said there's just an element of toughness and you're giving me more options defensively to just trot out there and not leave Luka or Kyrie on the island alone.
And I think the Luka help point thing is important, because me and John were talking a little bit before the show about where they could place Luka and where they want to have him. Like, I think the Mavericks just want Luka in the weak side corner anyway, or the strong side corner. They want him in a corner. Yeah. So one, to kind of, if he's in the strong side, to kind of eliminate some of the help responsibilities he has. In the weak side corner, he has gotten better at being in early and then closing out in a controlled way. So like he's gotten better at that defensively. And then on top of that, you just get Luka crashing in for defensive rebounds and jump starting Dallas' transition attack, which quietly top 10 in pace this year. This is not a team that likes to run, or historically hasn't run that often. They've been towards the bottom of the pace rankings pretty much for Luka's entire career. But they're running more. Even if Luka himself isn't running more, like those early hit aheads to Kyrie and letting him jumpstart some things, like that's been important. And the Clippers' transition defense has been a problem for the entirety of this season. It was bad before the Harden trade. When Steve and I did our check-in with the Clippers, they started, I think, 0-4 or 0-5 with Harden. And we talked about things. Transition defense was bad. When the Clippers went on that, I think, 26-5 surge, because the offense was great, defense was like hovering around the top 10, the transition defense was still bad in terms of points per possession allowed. And so now you've gotten into some of like the effort stuff with Harden in transition post All-Star break. Once again, it's been bad. And so that right there, more than anything, the Clippers have to be committed to getting back and matching up early. Like they're not going to be a heavy offensive rebounding team anyway. At least I don't anticipate that in this series. They have to get back and get matched up. And then scram switch or pre-switch if necessary once the possession starts. They got to get back. Because if Dallas is able to get those easy ones, I don't think the Mavericks have elite defensive personnel, but there is a collective size that they have. There is a level of switchability that they have. And if the Clippers are just taking the ball out of the basket every other trip because they're getting blitzed in early offense or in transition, it makes it that much easier for the Mavericks to kind of set up shop and dictate matchups, dictate what the Clippers want to do. That could also flow right into the Clippers tempo question that I've had. Steve has brought up on the pod multiple times. How quickly are the Clippers getting into their actions? What juice are they running their actions with? They can fall to the trap very quickly if they do not clean up the early stuff.
Well, I feel like that's like almost like a Ty Lue staple, and I think Ty Lue is like X's and O's, like it's like he and Spo. But one of the things, even when Ty was in Cleveland, they didn't play with a whole lot of pace. Now, granted, that was LeBron, and LeBron's always going to sort of do a lot of controlling of the offense himself, and he's going to be very selective. Even when he was younger, he's going to be really selective. But that seems to have followed Ty with this group, and maybe it's another function of the personnel where they're not running, they're not getting a lot of early offense and not getting a lot of early looks. Paul is a deliberate player. Kawhi is a deliberate player. James Harden is a very deliberate player. So maybe that's just a function of personnel. But you're right about their transition. Like they don't get back. They're not very big. Like they're bigger, but they're not like big. They're not tall. You know what I mean? Like they're thick. You can play up and play down with them. How do you see this series playing out? Do you see this as a 7-game series because it's the 4-5 and this is the third time and third different iteration this team's match up? Or before I even ask you that, where does Kyrie Irving fit into all this?
Kyrie's an interesting one because he's really good. He could just be a game breaker in terms of the scoring ability that he has. I really wonder how the Clippers treat him in this series. Because like there have been like pockets throughout the regular season, zooming out from this particular matchup, but there have been pockets where teams have been like, okay, Luka's just going to get his 32, 8, and 8. Kyrie, you are not about to also have 30. If you come off ball screen, we are sending 2 to you. And we are funneling these shots to Dante Exum or Derrick Jones Jr. or Maxi Kleber or insert role player here. We know Luka's going to do the ball from Steve. He is scheme proof. If we trap him, he has an answer. If we go under, he has an answer. If we switch against him, he has an answer. Luka's going to do what he does. We can't have Luka has 32, Kyrie has 30. If Luka's got 32, Kyrie, you are having 18 points if we can help it. So I do wonder if the Clippers at any point in this series kind of tap into, we're going to trap Kyrie, or we're going to aggressively show help behind whoever's defending Kyrie. We're making sure you do not get off because we know we're not going to be able to just stop Luka. He's going to play with matchups, whatever. Both of y'all can't get off at the same time. We're getting the ball out of your hands because it'll be easier to do so. You're not as good as Luka. You're not as tall as Luka, so you can't see over the traps as well. You're not as good of a passer. Let's see if we can bog down Dallas's offense by trapping you, funnel these shots to these role players. If PJ Washington goes 5 of 8 from 3, we tip our cap. If Derrick Jones Jr. goes 3 of 6 from 3, we tip our cap. Dante Exum hits 3, we tip our cap. I wonder if at all the Clippers tap into that bag.
That's an interesting one because you're basically saying, Kyrie, go against all of your instincts and make the right basketball decision. And by and large, Kyrie has made the right basketball decisions in the ways that we didn't expect him to make with Luka. Like, I don't know how you felt when the trade first happened. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. Luka's going to do what he does, and Kyrie's going to want to match Luka doing what he does. And it seems like Kyrie is sort of settled into the spot of knowing where he belongs, while Luka is also sort of giving him the space and the oxygen to do it too, where Luka doesn't feel like, hey, he's not clapping for the ball. Like, I feel like Luka's still moving without the ball is still like something that, hey, Luka, can you get in some other actions to make a defense account for you when you don't have it? You know what I mean? But I feel like Luka being third on my MVP ballot and was given strong consideration for first, I can't really be asking him to do so much anyway. So that's where I'm at. But before we go, because this is the last series, where's your pick on this? I feel like you're leaning Dallas, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, I think I have Dallas in 6 or 7. I guess the home game would be in Dallas for game 6. I would say Dallas in 6 in this one. If I knew we were getting, like, Kawhi was just entering the series with no health concerns, or relative to, like, the Kawhi experience, if he didn't have the thing where he just missed 3 weeks beforehand, honestly, I still feel better about how the Mavs have played second half of the year. But I'll at least be a lot closer to picking the Clippers, just because they do have a level of depth. They do have lineups they can play with, and Kawhi can just be the best player on the court on both ends of the floor. But with that hesitation in, I lean Mavs in 6 right now.
I lean Mavs in 7 because I feel like Kawhi will have a game where he just gives us like 40. And he will do enough for defending where he just pulls a game out of his ass. And I do give Ty Lue a measure of respect because I feel like Ty Lue is one of those coaches that he can take his and beat yours and take yours and beat his, one of those types. Mm-hmm. Like, I think from an adjustment standpoint, I do give Ty Lue an edge. But I do think Jason Kidd finds a way to get these dudes playing harder consistently, which I think counts for something